This is Michael Popok, the new Legal AF YouTube channel. You're already here. Early vote, free subscribe. And I'm sitting at the intersection. And now it looks like fascist governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, was not content with just suppressing First Amendment expression, undermining a woman's right to choose, and abusing power, but he decided to use forgery, false statements, and extortion in order to do it. And it all comes down to that case I reported on last week, in which Judge Walker, federal judge up in the Northern District of Florida, decided that, hey, it's probably a bad idea for the state to try to threaten criminal prosecution against broadcast television stations in Florida who were only running ads in favor of Amendment 4, pro-Amendment 4, which would change, alter, amend the Florida Constitution to give back a woman a right to choose. And since DeSantis didn't like that and didn't want to just have it in the marketplace of ideas where one campaign versus the other, fair and square, let's see for the hearts and minds of voters who wins, that's not good enough for DeSantis and MAGA and fascists and Trump. He said, no. I'm going to use my general counsel's office and the lawyers in the Department of Health and send criminal cease and desist letters to broadcast television to tell them to take those commercials off the air, even though they're authentic. One of them is by a woman named Caroline, who shows a picture of her sonogram and of her MRI showing that she had brain cancer, that she could have died, and her doctors told her she would have died, leaving her existing children orphaned if she didn't get an abortion, and she didn't get an abortion in Florida. She wasn't able to get one in Florida. Well, Ron DeSantis didn't like that. False advertising, criminal. Forget the First Amendment. Now, Judge Walker took one look at that case that recently filed by Floridians for protecting freedom and said, "Hey, let me make it easy on the state of Florida because I got to dumb it down for you. It's the First Amendment, stupid. You can't do that." That's not the first time that Judge Walker has successfully taken on and quashed the fascist tendencies of Ron DeSantis. He's done it in two other cases, one about peaceful protest in the streets following Black Lives Matter, which Ron DeSantis wanted to criminalize. And another one was also about First Amendment expression and what could be taught in schools, in universities or not, because Ron DeSantis wants all Floridian kids to be dummies. Or stupid, to paraphrase Judge Walker. And now we've got a new revelation. Now we're back to what I said at the top of the hot take. You're probably thinking, Popok, get to it. Tell us about the forgery and the extortion and the fraud. All right, here we go. We knew that John Wilson, who worked for 14 years in the Department of Health, and it was currently under his boss, the Surgeon General, Joe Ladapo. Hold that thought for a minute. COVID denier, somebody who got caught forging data about COVID in order to scare people into not taking the vaccine. That guy? Okay. So it looks like at first appearance, and as part of the lawsuit that was filed by Floridians Protecting Freedom against the cease and desist letter sent by the DeSantis campaign or DeSantis administration in order to threaten criminal conduct, which at least one broadcast television station took it as a real threat and refused to run the ad. Okay. Looks like we thought, all right. And then we saw, that's weird. John Wilson, the general counsel, the lawyer, the head lawyer for the Department of Health, who wrote the letters, we thought, to these television stations, resigned and made a comment about his conscience. We're like, what happened there? Now we know. There's a new declaration that John Wilson has filed to try to get out of the case because he was sued personally, along with Joe Ladapo, by Floridians Protecting Freedom, in which he said, don't blame me. I didn't even write the cease and desist letters. That was by people well above my pay grade. That was for lawyers, general counsel, deputy general counsel, assistant general counsel for Ron DeSantis. In other words, the governor ordered me to do it under threat. This is the implied part, that I would be fired if not. And I resigned instead. So they took his hand, metaphorically, put a pen in it, and to paraphrase Godfather, told John Wilson either his signature or his resignation was going to be on the table in the morning. And he signed these letters, apparently under protest. But he did it, so he's not covered in glory for me, even though he resigned later, except now there's a little bit of a plot twist here. And he says in a new filing that he was ordered by Sam Elliott who was an assistant general counsel for DeSantis, the general counsel for DeSantis, Ryan Newman, and the deputy general counsel for DeSantis, Jed Dottie, to do two things. One, to send out those letters to broadcast television and threaten them with the criminal misdemeanor of sanitary nuisance. I love Florida. It's so backwards, even though I'm a Florida bar member. That's one. Two, they ordered him on his waning days, and he did it. He didn't write the letter. He didn't collaborate with the writing of the letter. They said, put this letter on your letterhead, sign it, and send it out. And he did it. Threatening criminal conduct for First Amendment expression. He then is told and ordered by this same motley crew to enter into and sign up some law firms and use it on the Department of Health budget, meaning our taxpayer dollars, $1.4 million to hire a couple of law firms to figure out how to sue these people criminally if they refuse to bring down the ad. The ad is a 20-second, 30-second spot in which Caroline, a Florida resident, tells about her cancer, her brain tumor, her not wanting to leave her children orphaned, and why she's a proponent in favor of Amendment 4, obviously. Now, like I said, DeSantis doesn't want to compete for the hearts and minds of voters fairly. You know, First Amendment means in the marketplace of ideas, you get a free expression. You can have the pro-Amendment 4 forces against the anti-Amendment 4 forces, and I'm fine with both. I know where my heart lies, where I vote in favor of women and the right to choose. But you know what? If there's a competing argument, then you make that competing argument, but on a level playing field, not with the governor threatening to gag and bound and criminalize the First Amendment expression of the other side he doesn't like, and not to use forgery, ghostwriting, and extortion threats and fraud in order to accomplish it. And who is he, DeSantis, to spend $1.4 million of his state's taxpayer dollars to hire law firms to go after this boondoggle, which is in violation of the First Amendment? How do I know that? Because Mark Wilson, the federal judge, said it was. And I want these lawyers that were just hired, these Florida bar members, and I'll figure out who you are. I want them to stand in front of Judge Walker soon, hopefully, and tell Judge Walker why they haven't breached their ethical duty by taking this case and using the power of their law firms to go after and have a chilling effect through cease and desist letters on illogical and unethical arguments, why they have not committed violations of the Florida bar and the rules of professional responsibility. One day they may have to answer for that. Meantime, I guess they were willingly in these law firms, and their general counsel within their law firms were like, $1.4 million from this DeSantis, where do I sign? Or some version of like that. Right? So John Wilson is still not covered in glory because he sent the letters and engaged those law firms before he quit. But he did file an affidavit to try to get himself out from under it. And in the affidavit that I just got my hands on, which I've just reported on, he said, I didn't write it. I was forced to do it. And I resigned before I had to write anymore because they wanted me to write more and supervise the lawsuits that they're hiring these law firms to do. And I'd had enough. My conscience was just like, I can't do this. And so at least he gets credit for now stepping forward and doing the right thing by filing that declaration. Sure, he's trying to save his own ass. He's trying to save his own hide. But, you know, that's where we're at. So now we got to follow. And it's all back in front of Judge Walker. Believe me, when Judge Walker got his coffee in the morning and his assistant and his law clerks gathered round for the morning around that long table in his chambers, they said, what's on the docket today, ladies and gentlemen? And one of the law clerks said, well, we got a new filing hot off the presses on the docket. We got a new declaration by Mr. Wilson. What does that say? I'm sure he spit his coffee. Here's a version. And said, get the lawyers on the phone. I want to talk to the lawyers about the revelations in here. And I want DeSantis's lawyers in my chambers later in the week. I want all the general counsel, deputy general counsel, assistant general counsel. I don't care how many counsels come in here, but they're coming in here with the guy with the black robe, and that's me, Mark Walker. That's sort of what I envision, and we will continue to report on it here on Legal AF. New channel, easy to find, at Legal AF MTN. Find out what 50 million people a month already know. Legal AF is the home of law and politics commentary and analysis like no other. I am the chief curator. I'm bringing it to you here with people from the Midas universe and new voices you haven't heard from yet, like Court Accountability Action. You can only find it on Legal AF MTN. Take a minute, free subscribe as we get to our goal of 250,000 in the first 40 days of our existence. So until next time, until my hot takes in my podcast, Legal AF, I'm Michael Popok, and I am reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.